Hey, what's up guys? Matt Laidlaw here, coming to you from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson, Los Angeles area's oldest, largest, and finest dealership. So I had a lot of requests on doing the Road King, 2017 Road King, so that's what we're doing today. Let me go into some of the details on the bike here. So the Road King fits a very niche place in the touring lineup. The Road King is the only touring bike Harley-Davidson makes that does not have a fairing on it. So you do have a windshield, but the windshield can be taken off very easily. And I'll actually demonstrate that here in a second. But the Road King is on Harley-Davidson's touring frame, which is, the biggest, most robust frame, best suited for high-speed, long-distance riding, carrying luggage, carrying a passenger, things like that. The bike I had before my Street Glide was a Road King, so I'm a huge fan of these bikes. Really, who I would recommend a Road King for is someone who wants Harley-Davidson's best riding bike, so a touring chassis bike, but does not want the fairing on there. Now, some people say that the fairing looks like an old man bike. I disagree with that, but to each their own. But if you're looking for a touring chassis bike, maximum comfort, good suspension, good ergonomics, and this year, since the Milwaukee 8 is only on the touring bikes and nothing else at this point in time, this is the only bike that you can purchase that doesn't have a fairing and a radio on it that has the Milwaukee 8 engine. So again, it fits a very niche position in Harley-Davidson's lineup. Over the years, Harley-Davidson has had a few different versions of the Road King. They've had a Road King Custom. They've had the Road King Classic for a long time. And I will point out that there is no longer a Road King Classic. In years past, the Classic had the leather bags with the white wall tires and spoke-laced wheels. At least in North America, you can't get it anymore. There may be other parts of the world where they still make it. Last year, you could order a wheel option from the factory and get the laced wheels and white walls. You can no longer even get the wheel option this year. So let me go over some of the big differences between the 2016 and the 2017 model year. This year we have a hydraulic clutch. In 2014, when the Project Rushmore came out, all the fairing model bikes, so all the touring bikes besides the Road King, got the hydraulic clutch. So this year, brand new for 2017, they implemented the hydraulic clutch on the Road King. Now the biggest thing that we got this year, of course, is Harley-Davidson's brand new Milwaukee 8 107 cubic inch motor. A lot of the changes that are on this bike that are recent came about in Project Rushmore. So the new saddlebags that came about in 2014. I'll mention this too, and I haven't mentioned this in my prior videos on the Street Glide and other bikes, but you've got these pins now that spin to take the bags off. So Harley-Davidson, actually last year they had a recall on the pins. The springs that held the clips in were losing tension and people were losing their saddlebags on the freeway. So, that's now 100% fixed, of course, with these new screw type pins that lock the saddlebags in. So I will have a link in my video that links to the Milwaukee 8, my Milwaukee 8 video that goes into detail on this new motor. But basically, in a nutshell, you got it 107 cubic inches now, up from 103. This is 4 valves per cylinder, 2 spark plugs per cylinder. It's a single cam push rod system. It's counterbalanced and rubber mounted. A lot less vibration now, especially at an idle. It's more of a smooth, refined is the word that they keep using, and I would agree this is a more refined engine. So let's start it up. On a Road King, you have an ignition lock. So you turn the key in, you move the key up to 12 o'clock, then it's locked. And you also have a separate fork lock. So on the fork lock, turn the bars to the left, put the key in and turn it to lock, and then the forks will be locked into place. On the fairing model bikes, you just have one fob that locks both of them in one shot. The switch here toggles you through your trip A, you got a trip B. This R is approximately how many miles you have before you run out of gas. You got a clock. You have this that shows you what gear you're in and your RPMs as well. And then your odometer. Fuel gauge right here on the left. You do have cruise control on this. So you push that in, you get the orange light that comes on right there. You gotta be doing at least about 25 miles an hour, and then you'll click that down to set the speed. Once it's set, your green light will turn green, or your cruise control light will turn green, and you can go up and down by 1 mile increments. You got a passing lamp switch here, so that turns on your passing lamps. One thing that's cool about the Road King is you have real good lighting stock out of the box. So on like a Street Glide, you just have the single headlamp. The Road King, you got better lighting because you have the passing lamps. That also saves you quite a bit of money if you ever want to do like LED lighting. You don't have to buy the housings here, the passing lamps here. To put these on a Street Glide, just for the housings there, it's like 350 bucks, something like that. This is the dual halogen bulb lamp. This is not LED. Dual halogen bulb. Another thing about the Milwaukee 8 is it's got more of a sophisticated cooling system on there. So this is your oil cooler down there. It's a lot bigger than last year. And oil circulates up through the heads around the exhaust ports. Really keeps this motor cool. So to turn on the engine idle temperature management system, you have to have the bike on run, and then you roll the throttle forward like that, and then when you see the cruise control light either flash green or orange, if it flashes orange like that, you know you've disabled that function. If I roll the throttle forward again, that will then turn green. So now the engine idle temperature management system is active. So if I get to a certain temperature, sitting there idling at a light, have the clutch pulled in, or if I'm in neutral, the rear cylinder will cut out, and that system is put into place to lower the idle temperature, reduce the heat coming up on the rider. That's all done via the infotainment center on the fairing model bikes, but on the Road King you still got to roll the throttle forward. So I want to show you guys how to take off the windshield on a Road King, and really it's really simple. To take it off, you really just pull it towards you. If you position your body like I am here, just pull the windshield towards you until the two top clips come off, and then you'll pull straight up to get the bottom clips off. So really there's nothing that locks the windshield on, it just pulls right off.
And to put it back on, you just put the bottom clips on first, push them straight down on the rubber grommets that are in between the where the passing lamps attach to the forks. And you'll have to lift these two little clips up and simultaneously push forward to put the two top clips on. Alright guys, so the Road King really is the minimalist's touring bike. So if you want the lowest price point and you want the least amount of bells and whistles and frills, then the Road King is for you. Like I mentioned before, the Road King is the only touring chassis bike that Harley-Davidson makes that does not have either the Batwing fairing on it or the shark nose fairing on it. So if you want a clean front end, real classic looking touring bike, then the Road King is the best bet for you. Now you do have the windshield for wind deflection, and it does help significantly. You know, a lot of guys like to use them on the long rides and on the short rides. If you're just going around town, it's really easy to pull it off, as I demonstrated earlier. I've owned a Road King personally. I put about 30,000 miles on my Road King that I owned before, and I loved it. I used it as a daily driver. I never used the windshield just because I put big ape hanger bars on my Road King. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen my Road King in past videos that I've done. But that's another thing that's kind of nice or a benefit about the Road King is there's no fairing obstruction to kind of limit bar customization that you do on this bike. So if you're into bar customization and you want to do something along those lines, the Road King is a good option for you. So the Road King also is a design and platform that's been around for a long time, so it's a really good blank canvas if you want to customize a bagger. The Road King is a great option. There's a lot of parts that fit this bike, both genuine Harley-Davidson and aftermarket parts, excuse me. So yeah, you'll never run out of options on this motorcycle. So I want to draw a couple quick comparisons with some of the other bikes that you might be considering if you're considering a Road King. The next step up would be either a Road Glide or a Street Glide. You can get those bikes in two versions, the standard or the special. If you want to know the differences between those, I'll give you a link here. But basically, the main differences, and the question you got to ask yourself if you're deciding between a Road King and a Street Glide would be, okay, do I want the fairing? The fairing definitely gives you additional wind protection. The windshield does okay, but it's never going to be as good as the big fairings on a Street Glide or a Road Glide. The other thing you got to ask yourself is, do you need a radio? So do you want the music? Do you want the GPS? Do you want the phone, the ability to make phone calls? If none of that stuff's important to you, I know there's a lot of guys that they get on their Harleys to leave, you know, all the high-tech stuff behind. If you're not into that stuff, then the Road King is probably the bike for you. I will also say too, the Road King utilizes Harley-Davidson's full range of suspension in the rear. So I think a uncommonly known fact about the Street Glide and the Road Glide is they're actually lowered. The shocks in the rear are lowered 3/4 of an inch. The seat is also a lower contour seat, and that kind of gives it that overall sporty look. Well, the Road King doesn't have that. You know, it's got the full range of suspension in the rear, so it's got a softer, more cushioned ride, and the seat also has more padding in it. It's not one of these low contour seats. So the overall ride quality on a Road King is a little bit better. It's a little less stiff than a Street Glide or a Road Glide. So another comparison that I've seen drawn a lot between customers is a lot of people are trying to decide between a Road King and a Softail Heritage. And really, they have some real big differences, guys. I mean, they're not even really in the same class. The Road King, like I said several times already, is a touring chassis bike. It's a really big frame, and it's completely different than the Softail frame, which the Heritage is on. So on a Softail frame, you've got the suspension that's all tucked up underneath horizontally on the bike. So what you're really getting with a Softail is you're getting a real classic hardtail look, because there's no visible suspension in the rear. It's all tucked up underneath. But that suspension will never be as efficient at really reducing the shock of going down the road as the big touring suspension will be. So what that all means in a nutshell is the Road King has a far superior ride, especially at high speeds, than the Heritage. Now, a lot of times guys will get the Heritage because it fits them better. The Heritage is definitely built for a smaller stature person. So maybe if you're not as tall, the Heritage is definitely lower to the ground. The weight is slung lower, so it's got a lower center of gravity. The Road King very much has that top heavy, I commonly refer to it as a UPS truck feel, because it's real top heavy because you got a tall travel suspension on there. So if you're trying to decide between both of them, if your big priorities are highway comfort and you're a big enough guy or girl to ride the Road King, I usually recommend the Road King 9 times out of 10. Now, if you're someone that just likes that real classic style of the Heritage with the leather bags, and maybe you're a smaller stature person, then yeah, by all means go for the Heritage. The Heritage is a great bike. But as far as overall ride comfort, the Road King really dominates it. The other guys that I really try to steer towards a Road King are the guys that come in that are just really big dudes. Guys that are 250 pounds, 6'2", and up. Guys that come in like that, and they don't want a touring bike per se. They don't want the fairing on there, and maybe they're a younger guy. They're not ready for that. They think it's a grandpa bike, which I don't agree with. Once again, but if a guy like that comes in as just a really big dude, I usually will steer them towards a Road King, because if you take the windshield off this thing and do a few little customizations on these Road Kings, these things can be really, really badass looking bikes, and they don't have the fairing on them. So those are the guys that I steer towards these bikes as well. If you get a really big dude, 250, 300 pound guy who's real tall, 6'2", 6'3", and up, and you put them on let's say like a Softail, like a Slim or a Deluxe or something like that, those bikes are just too small, and they just make the bike look like a little toy, and they don't look right on the motorcycle. So they need a bigger bike. So the Road King has the bigger chassis that will spread you out a little bit more, and there's a lot of things that you can do as far as pushing the floorboards up or putting a tall man's seat on the bike and kicking you back. And a big chassis bike like this just really accommodates a bigger dude a lot better. So I'll go over real quickly some of the specs and performance stats on this bike, and I'll also include a link to my in-depth coverage on the Milwaukee 8 engine, which is going to give you more of a detailed look at exactly what engine is in this bike. But Harley-Davidson publishes on their website that this bike has 111 foot-pounds of torque, and that comes on at 3,250 RPM. If you were to throw this up on a dyno and measure the horsepower and torque at the rear wheel, you're going to get about 100 foot-pounds of torque and about 80 horsepower, and that's again measured at the rear wheel. So there's a lot of other things that go into the engine and make it really good, and a big improvement from the twin cam model. The charging system's a lot better now. There's more of a sophisticated oil cooling system in there. Oil runs through the heads now, and it definitely cools the bike down better. So anyways, to kind of wrap up here, the Harley-Davidson Road King has been a staple in the Harley-Davidson lineup for a while now. The bike first came out in 1994, and they've sold a lot of them over the years. There's been anywhere between 1 and 3 variations of the bike every year since. They're now back down to 1. Over the years, they've had the Road King Custom and the Road King Classic. and now they just have the Road King standard, the FLHR, and the bike's been really successful, and it's definitely spawned a lot of copies over the years. Right now, Indian has a bike called the Springfield, which is a direct copy of the Road King standard. And then they have the Chief Vintage, which is a direct copy of the Road King Classic. I mean, they've even gone as far as to have the leather saddlebags and the laced wheels on it. So the bike is definitely popular. They're sold a lot, and so people are looking to get a piece of that market. But the Road King is one of my favorite bikes. Like I said, I've owned one and I loved it. There are 2 factory options on the Road King. You can get the bike with or without ABS, and with and without the security system. You pay $795 for the ABS, and you pay $395 for the security system. Basically, how the security system works is it's a buttonless proximity sensor. When that sensor gets near the bike, it engages the ignition. If that sensor isn't within about a 2-foot radius of the motorcycle, then it electronically cuts the ignition and the bike will not start. So on a touring bike like this, it's pretty useful, because if you forget to lock your ignition and you forget to lock your forks, then the security is one more level, one more layer of security, added protection, to where someone can't start the bike even if the bike's unlocked. If you don't have the security and you forget to lock the bike, people can just ride right away without the key. So not a bad option to have. As always, guys, if there's any questions on the bike, maybe I missed something, I'm sure I did, but if you have a specific question, please leave the question in the comments, and I'll get back to you and answer any questions. As always, let me know what bike you guys want to see next. I will be reviewing the bike that gets the most votes. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. I really appreciate all the viewership. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.